Dr. Narasimhan, this is Dr. Sitaram.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Good morning.
We understand that this is a case of hypertension on 4 hypertensive drugs. And what is the echo findings?
Echo has concentric LVH. LA size is normal. That's enough. LA size is normal, 3.5. Now this patient is on 4 antihypertensive drugs. Telmisartan with hydrochlorothiazide, amlodipine and a beta blocker.
Okay.
Now with this background we took him up. Renal angiogram was normal and initially we have performed right renal artery denervation. I'll just go over the things with you. Now we have taken a sheath. This is pre-phase multi-purpose curve. It has a side arm and a very soft tip. It accommodates the radiofrequency ablation catheters. Now we have cannulated the renals. Can you go back and show the other renal?
Uncontrolled in spite of 4 drugs. He was taken up for renal artery denervation on one side on 3-4 days back, and now he's taken up for the denervation for live on the other side. It is basically the same EP catheter which they are using as a modified for renal denervation. As you understand that Medtronic RDN has not yet approved, is not available yet, but it is same catheter which can be just altered and used for this purpose too, which Dr. Narasimhan will be demonstrating. They just want to see how is it looking on fluoro ones. Can you just focus on the fluoro ones?
Can you go and show the other renals?
Dr. Narasimhan, how much fall is after right denervation during the 3-4 days?
Right renal chupindi.
How much fall in blood pressure?
170 systolic.
I think what sir is asking is, is there any fall compared to before and after doing
after
one
right
side?
one.
It was about 200 plus.
Usually the effect of this is seen in the trials anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks after the renal denervation. This causes denervation, increase natriuresis, and then the effect is seen from 2 to 6 weeks. The pressure fall is maintained as late as 2 years after the procedure. So acutely the endpoints are fall in impedance from the catheter tip. Because this is you can see initially this catheter in the right renal artery. We have first gone to the inferior aspect of the renal artery. We generally, because this is a 4 millimeter tip catheter, the density of the current is low because the electrode size is larger compared to the Adrian catheter that was used in the Simplicity trial. They have used 8 watts, we use somewhere from 15 to 20 watts, and because this is a narrow chamber, you will have an impedance of somewhere around 250 to 300. Let's just measure the impedance of this. Connect this please. Okay. Deltasm given. Now very often following an ablation, because we are denervating, patients tend to have a lot of pain in the in the back. We tend to give them a good dose of analgesia. Second thing is some of these ablative lesions cause a renovascular spasm. So pre-treat them with a calcium antagonist. Now as you can see them, can you focus on this monitor please, the ablation screen? Right, you can see the impedance now is about 196, 198. I hope the first column is the impedance, the next column is the duration of the RF, and the third one what you see is the temperature, and the last one is the wattage. Can you set up the wattage for 15 watts? Give 15. And fentanyl please. 20 fentanyl and 1 midazolam. Okay, give me another catheter. Another. Now as you can see, the moment it goes in, you should see a temperature which comes up to the body temperature, which is about 37 degrees. And we set the temperature to about 50 to 55 degrees Celsius. This is quite important because the tissue heating is much higher than what you are setting the temperature for. So even if you set it up for 50, that is the tip temperature of the catheter. But the tissue temperature heats up to as high as about 60 to 65 degrees. And that is the reason why we are a little conservative in terms of our temperature. To prevent coagulum formation and steam pops, it is better to put the machine will automatically cut off when it exceeds 50 degrees. Okay, we are set now. If you can you inject through the side arm? It is important. 300. Can you inject?
Narasimhan, did you check the renal artery which you have done the procedure 3 days back?
Yes, that's normal. The right renal is normal. Post-procedure.
Can you just show that shot once?
Post-procedure renal angio, can you show?
Now, today I am saying.
The right renal, please. That's the final result. Post-procedure.
Okay.
Okay. Now this side, if you look at it, you should not cause a circumferential lesion in the same plane. So can you inject now a little bit? If you see, I am set at the northern pole, that is the superior aspect of the left renal artery. And because this is left side, if I clock the catheter, I'll go to the posterior wall. If I anti-clock, it will come to the anterior wall of the renal artery. So first, let us start the prediction at the superior aspect first. Because you should not cause in the same plane. Can we go on, please? Our fentanyl given? Okay. You focus on this, the impedance there. Impedance, 198 impedance, show on the thing. Go on RF. RF is on. As you can see, the impedance drops from 198 to 178. Now, that is a sign that you're causing a transmural lesion, a good lesion, because there is a good fall in impedance. Go off. If the impedance drops abruptly like this, about 20, that means your wattage is too high. Can you cut down the wattage to 10? Okay. Go on. Give another 20.
Precaution which we should take is if the renal artery is bifurcating.
Yeah, we are proximal to that.
Yeah, we should be proximal to
yes. Go. $184 we started. It's dropping. 175, 173. తగ్గుతుందండి. Give another 1 milligram midas. Monitor saturation, please. పోతుంది. అయింది. Go off. Give 1 milligram midas and another 20 fentanyl, please. 20 propofol. Now I am clocking to go to the posterior wall.
Show the fluoro, please.
Can you concentrate on the fluoro? I am clocking the catheter to go to the posterior wall.
When Narasimhan is manipulating the catheter. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you show the?
Now we are able to see you.
I have gone to the posterior wall now. Now there is a deflecting handle. I am going to deflect the catheter to come to down south. That is the inferior aspect of the vessel. Okay?
Okay.
So we are posterior on the inferior aspect of the vessel. Now let's, can we give 2 cc's of propofol? Propofol, please, 20. Go on. Now the impedance we are starting level is 187. We are going to go on RF. Watch the impedance.
For the latecomers, this is a case of young male with refractory hypertension. One side, the renal sympathectomy has been done by denervation, by radiofrequency ablation. Now they are doing on the left side. This is a live transmission from Care Hospital.
There may be a little spasm soon after the thing, but it completely gets relieved after a while.
Yeah, I think some of the delegates, interventional cardiologists who do not belong to EP probably are more curious about this procedure, are asking how do you decide regarding when to stop. That's what he was explaining. The principle basically is not to produce a circumferential lesion because they could produce stenosis at
Now
that
I am
point.
coming anterior.
So you
You can see that I am counterclocking the catheter, so it comes to the anterior aspect in a different plane, and the impedance levels are different, 178. Go on RF.
As of now, the monitoring of how the amount of lesion burn is given is done by impedance. So if it's falling significantly, then beyond a point, then they're stopping it. Then the idea is to give the 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, what Narasimhan is mentioning is basically not to give the lesion circumferentially the same level. So you keep withdrawing the catheter, keep changing the direction. Maybe broadly, now you can take it as 6, 12, 9, 3 and giving it, but it may not be 100% foolproof, our system, to circumferentially produce a lesion. But the principle basically is to produce ablation all around, but not at the same level, so as to avoid the stenosis aspect happening there. So you produce 6 o'clock lesion, it's slightly distally, 3 o'clock a little more proximally, 2 o'clock those are the manipulations which is doing with the catheter. That's the principle of the therapy basically. And the monitoring when to stop the burning is being done by checking the impedance. That's what that impedance meter, they are showing it live on.
Off. Now the other thing is, if the impedance suddenly goes up, it's a sign.
Yeah, go ahead.
Catheter and the wall of the vessel.
Yeah.
So we would like to avoid that as much as possible. Okay, can you inject contrast? The advantage of this catheter is you can simultaneously inject contrast. It has got to go.
So basically, you can, when you're passing it in the guide catheter also, that can happen, no?
Right. Can you go there?
So this is more simpler actually. Basically, the renal guide is taken and then that is the ablation catheter connected to the irrigating tip. That's a system.
So there's no change in hardware as well?
As far as this thing, modified version is concerned.
Go.
But most of the labs do not have those EP catheter too. So that's how people who do not have the EP catheter, still it is worth purchasing that a newer system which is coming, which is maybe more. But otherwise the same EP catheter which is used to give ablation, same thing. But only thing is they have irrigated tip so as to monitor this.
Maybe it's time to talk about the selection of cases for...
They tend to, some of them complain of severe pain, so it's important to kind of keep them well sedated, and he has received a good dose of fentanyl, about 80 milligrams of fentanyl, about 20, 40, 30, propofol and midazolam. He's well sedated now.
Narasimhan?
Yes.
Dr. Sitaram is asking regarding the selection of cases. As of now, what type of cases are we taking up for this procedure? As you mentioned before, just repeat that.
Generally, this kind of works in patients where the mechanism is predominantly driven by, we are still not very clear about the mechanisms, but the most likely subsets which are likely to benefit are the ones with higher baseline blood pressure. That is, even when you start, don't start off with 140/90, 150/90. For example, this patient's pressure was about 170 despite drugs. And the renal anatomy should be suitable because you shouldn't have multiple renal vessels. You shouldn't be having a very atheromatous aorta because these catheters are a little more stiffer than the angiographic catheters.
Yeah, but basically from the patient point of view, if you see, he should be having uncontrolled hypertension in spite of 3 drugs, that sort of patient will take it. And anatomy of renal arteries, both renal arteries should be normal. There should not be any smaller ramifications immediately, because if you tend to ablate the smaller vessels, you could land in trouble. So proximal to the bifurcation and without any stenosis again. Sometimes there are instances where we took up patients for this procedure and we found out that renal arteries are narrow. So we may need to back out.
Okay, now let's take. No, it's okay. Let's quickly
About
take
the
a picture and
complications
come
of the
out. Don't
procedures.
rest.
Yeah. This.
I'll just show you the catheter shortly. This is the final picture we are going to do.
Narasimhan.
Yes.
One of the delegate here is inquisitive to see what we were thinking actually. As the technology is evolving, these minds are going even in our brains. How do you see the role of IVUS in this procedure? That's what...
We have tried, we have an IVUS, it's a forward looping, it's almost 10 French. And you need to park it in the renal vein to get a good, we don't need, just I need a picture. So, IVUS as such right now we don't know how to image. Because we find that the probe is too bulky for these vessels. We are a little worried whether to put in, go ahead, this is the final picture. Vessel looks clean.
I think we need to hasten up a little here in this lab so that people are also interested to watch for HOCM, because we have
now let me just show you the...
Can you briefly sum up this case and going with other catheter?
No. This is, I'm just showing the catheter here.
Yeah. Now we are able to see it clearly.
If you're doing it on the left renal, like what we did here, you deflect the catheter and come to the inferior aspect of the vessel.
Yeah.
Then once it is done, you move a millimeter and then clockwise rotate the catheter. You're going in a posterior plane now when you rotate clockwise. Now you can be superior there, but it's important to come down to different, circumferentially at different levels and deliver the lesions, and avoid delivering lesions at the ostium, because that's where there is a risk of stenosis.
Okay. Now after the procedure, did you check shot?
Yes, this is a check shot. What you see on the screen, can you project?
Yeah. Here, fortunately, renal artery looks totally normal even after the procedure, but there are instances where you may feel some temporary spasm in the vessels once the procedure is done.
Exactly.
Generally they say it regresses back, you need not worry about it, but here probably it is looking normal.
Any other complications that we should worry about in doing such a case?
There seems to be a drop in pressure. Initially, every Q1H pressures were measured. It's around 200 to 190 initially. It's hovering around 140 to 150 today. Let's wait and see. Following both renals, we have done the job. We need to wait and see.
Can they project the hemodynamic monitor once?
Pardon?
Can they show the monitor once, hemodynamic monitor?
Can you show the pressure monitor? Can you? He's coughing, 1 minute.
Okay, that's fine. So it started.
Dr. Narasimhan, do you prefer proximal part of the renal artery?
The time course of response after this therapy generally
initial one was
to be coming
unilateral.
4 to 6 weeks after the procedure. It is sometimes the things which you see immediately could be related
unilateral
to various
ablation.
other things also.
That is what they did first. The first
we started
2009
sometime
paper.
back with this patient with 2 to 210 by
for safety
130
reason
by
they
3
staged
drugs.
it.
Now is around 160, 170 like that. But it might
we don't know.
fall further with the time. Okay, then
okay, thank you.
Let them go.
He's got a...
Coming to the complications of the therapy, basically you need to be careful while giving the ablation. If you are more burning it
short
more,
neck and
then sometimes if you don't take care about the impedance, you could produce perforation.
Carry on.
Other thing is you could also, the artery could develop
that is what we thought.
stenosis
We'll
because of fibrotic lesions which are produced. That is why we are producing the lesions at various levels in various directions. So, that's the only precaution you need to take actually. If you have any doubt, you can give little under currents. If you do it over, burn more, then there's a problem of spasm. So whenever there's doubt of fall in impedance, you immediately stop giving procedure. Yeah, if you are renal vascular hypertension.
Can you bring up the other
secondary,
case,
but immediately also
Lawrence? Can you
Any
put
chance
the
of
PowerPoint of
thrombosis?
that thing?
As of now, because we are not giving full, we are giving only 5,000 units heparin, but we didn't come across any such instance because the whole procedure is done in less than 10 minutes. So basically, one point
much of gradient?
which I want to mention to all young interventional cardiologists who are just forming their careers is there's another newer opportunity of procedure where there's a lot of, as the Marty was mentioning yesterday in the talk, there's more and more newer opportunities coming, a lot of uncontrolled hypertension patients.
Can you
If this
quickly
procedure
show the
establishes
PowerPoint of that?
further, all the interventional cardiologists whoever can handle renal arteries, angios, renal stentings, this procedure can be quite simply done. It doesn't need a lot of EP technique or anything. So it's another new encouraging modality which is coming up. That's why I was confident that this should be kept in this meeting.
Carto picture.
So, yeah. Narasimhan, can we go to the second lab now?
Yeah, we are in the second lab.
Yeah. Let them move.
This is a gentleman who was referred with diagnosis of hypertrophic cardiomyopathy and a gradient of about 100 millimeters. And he had a past history of CML and his class 3 symptoms. His BNP was about 700. So with this, we first, he had an angiogram done at his native place which showed, can you show the angiogram please? Coronary angio. Now, as a preamble, I don't know whether Balram Bhargava has given his talk on HCM ablation. Not yet.
No, it's not yet over. People.
Okay. Now, the reason why we came to this methodology is over the last couple of years, we have been doing septal ablation, and then we used to use myocardial contrast injection before selecting a case. Whenever we inject myocardial contrast, we found at least 50% of the patients, the contrast layers on the RV aspect, RV endocardium, when it layers on the LV. So we are causing a very large infarct to reduce the gradient. We thought that may not be a suitable anatomy, and that may explain the endpoints being having a lot of complications. Actually, the first report of this RF ablation came out from Cologne, Germany and Birmingham, which looked at it in pediatric population and showed an impressive reduction of gradients following catheter ablation. We have now done 4 patients so far. Now, the thing is fairly simple. Can we just take this catheter? 1 second. First, we show the thing. Where is the ablation catheter? Ablation catheter.
Dr. Narasimhan, if you are
Coronary angio.
Narasimhan,
Yes,
if
ablation.
you need some time, then Dr. Balram Bhargava is ready now. The hall is full. You want, he can give a talk before, and then how do you want it?
Yeah, I suppose that's all right, because this patient, unfortunately, we took him based on the echo findings.
Okay.
But as you can see, the gradient is not very impressive. So I am not inclined to do I can show you the previous cases we had done, but I'm not inclined to proceed with the ablation. You can see an intracardiac echo there. Can you focus on this?
Yeah, we recorded that previous live in the box case. I think that CT finding.
Yeah.
We can show.
Can you show the eyes image, please? See, as you can see, this was based on 2 echo reports done elsewhere. Both of them, one showed more than 120 and the other one showed an 80 gradient. But here the pullback gradient doesn't look very impressive. We want to compare the inlet pressures first, and then we'll come back to this. Meanwhile, can you go ahead with Balram's talk, please? I'll come back to this.
Okay.
This patient is a 42-year-old male with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, no family history, but quite symptomatic on diazopyramide and 200 milligrams of metoprolol and thrice daily diazopyramide, continued to be symptomatic. Had a diastolic filling abnormality, and his baseline BNP was about 300. Next slide. So let me just go over briefly through the procedure. This patient we had taken under conscious sedation We have, go to the next. Yeah, you can see an intracardiac echo picture. I mean, this is a next. This is a regular echo. You can see the thickness, hypertrophied septum below the tip of the mitral valve. Next. Concentric LVH at mid cavity level. Next. Next. You can see the mid cavity gradient. Next. Can you play this? Show the gradient. Next. 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 Click on the MR also. Show the gradient. No, show the Doppler gradient.
This is the live in the box case which we recorded the other day, Narasimhan?
Okay, typical gradients more than about, how much was it? 90, yeah? 99 gradient. This was on sedation on the day of the procedure by Cath. Next slide. His echo gradient was about 120. Can you run this picture? Now, I do agree that LAO cranial is ideal, but what we have is we have a lot of hardware, the monitoring screens and the ICE screen on the thing. So we just did a plain LAO. You can see the catheter which makes this knuckle like bend and goes, that's the bulged portion of the septum. Next. Next. Go above.
Dr. Narasimhan, we lost your audio. Kindly wait.
This procedure for 3 months after follow-up. Show that picture, Andy.
We are able to hear you.
Yeah, you can see now post-procedure, this is about 4 months after the procedure. This patient is only on beta blockers. What is the gradient now? MR has come down significantly. This is a whiff of MR. This patient, remember, had about the final thing on follow-up is this patient function. Again, about 3 months after. There are a couple of important things we learned in this patient was, this is a very instructive patient for us. To complete the ablation, we had to use about 3 liters of saline. And patient developed LVF on the table because of the excess volume we had. And thereafter, we started having a wedge catheter continuously for monitoring. And second thing is, the table is not very impressive. It's about 30 millimeters, but on follow-up, they have an impressive reduction in gradient. And usually it takes about anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. The biggest advantage is, can you show the picture of the left bundle? The biggest advantage of this procedure is that you can tag the non-coronary cusp as well as the left bundle and the his bundle and stay away from those areas during an ablation. So you can, I'm little surprised that the German study had such a high incidence of AV block. I have a strong feeling that the power settings that they have used is totally inappropriate. We do this constantly in LV. And for an irrigated tip catheter, we don't exceed 35 to 40 watts, whereas in that study, it has been about 60 to 70. And it's very rare that if you're conservative, you can clearly tag and avoid the his bundle and the left bundle and significantly cut down the incidence of AV block. We can even stage the procedure and do it, but the biggest advantage I see is you can limit your lesions to the mitral septal contact. You can avoid the left bundle, you can avoid the his bundle, and by titrating the power you can avoid the collateral damage to the rest of the areas. I'll show you the 3D picture of this patient. Can you show the LAO? There, LAO. This is the LAO view of the left ventricle. You can see LAO cranial, the septum is bulging there, okay? Now, as you see there, the lesions are bang on the septum where there is a hypertrophied portion. This, what I have tagged, is a left bundle. This is
I think for benefit
proximal.
of everybody, that is a carto picture, I think, which is showing you, carto map.
You can see in right anterior oblique, this is the aortic cusp, his bundle and left bundle. This is a posterior fascicle which has been tagged. So these are all, the blue dots are all fascicular potentials. So the biggest advantage, if you carefully map and ablate, you can completely avoid the risk of AV block. Probably the only thing I could think of is mechanical trauma to left bundle is a possibility when you cross the aortic valve. But I'm a little surprised at the high incidence of AV block in that study. This is the operating view. As you can see, you can kind of come down on the septum and deliver lesions, 3 discrete lesions, to reduce the gradient. Any questions?
Dr. Nasim, do you find the septal arteries always of fair size, or sometimes you have to widen the procedure because of various mass size of septals?
I'm sorry?
That is relevant if you're doing alcohol septal ablation, sir. But here, when you're doing RF ablation, that doesn't really matter because of the size of septal. That's the advantage of this procedure. Narasimhan, are you showing the present taken case now, or what?
See, the thing is, we are just convinced this is a good demonstration. Can you focus on the screen? When we went initially and did a pullback and other things, we couldn't demonstrate a significant gradient. But now, as you can see, one catheter we made a transeptal and got a multi-purpose catheter at the mitral inflow, and then the other catheter is the aortic pressure. Now you can see a gradient. This is a common problem sometimes. You need, the best way to validate is, if you are not getting a gradient, park one of your catheter at the mitral inflow and the other one in the aorta. You should be able to concentrate on the gradient. We are going to get a CT image, merge, and then proceed with the ablation shortly, but this is going to take time. You can proceed with your, we can finally discuss the results.
We are just showing you briefly whatever we have done so far in this patient with hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy. We are showing the ICE images as well as the CT merge with which help we are doing the carto-guided radiofrequency ablation of the septum in this patient. As we know, this patient has a single coronary artery supplying from the right the entire left also. Now,
Just to, 1 minute, just to recapitulate, some of you must have joined late. We did present one hypertrophic obstructive cardiomyopathy case in the morning, which they were planning to take. As the RF ablation could take some time, we thought we would complete the sessions and then go back to them. That's what is the case which was shown. In the case, brief background is the history. Initially, the gradient was less, but after post-ectopic potentiation, the gradient increased significantly, especially when it was properly checked with mitral inflow and outflow. And now they decided to do ablation, and we are seeing it. Now go ahead, Sharda.
the ablation is being done with help of carto guidance. It's an electroanatomical 3-dimensional
Can you be a little
mapping.
slower, please?
Yeah, we're doing it carto guidance. That's a 3-dimensional electroanatomical mapping system which helps us to locate the catheter position precisely, as well as doing it on a ICE catheter, intracardiac echo guidance. So you can see both the images. We also take the help of a CT prior to this procedure. Just prior to the procedure, we do a cardiac CT.
For the benefit of audience, Sharda, can you just highlight upon the ICE pictures, because I did mention to them before that advantage of using ICE over the TE.
Yeah. Intracardiac echo, the probe is parked in the inflow of the right ventricle. It's in the tricuspid valve area. On a slight modified view, we can see that.
See the catheter.
Just let it run, Lawrence.
Can the Care Lab adjust the mic of Sharda, please? Can it make it a little closer?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can see the.
Yeah.
What you can see on the ice is that this is the ice catheter parked in the tricuspid valve inflow area. Through that, with a slight modification, we can see the LV inflow as well as the entire LV septum. You can see the artifact of the ablation catheter as it loops around the mitral inflow going towards the septal area.
Point out.
And the tip of it is going to cast an artifact much better seen when we start the ablation lesion with the irrigation on. It shows a fan-shaped variation when we start ablation lesion. Apart from this, we take a help of CARTO system which which tells us the position of the ablation tip in a three-dimensional aspect. We do in all these patients, we do a CT, cardiac CT prior to the procedure within 24 hours and take help of it to have a better appreciation of the cardiac anatomy. So on the CT, the fixed points are the arch of aorta. So when we try to merge, when we merge the CT picture with the present CARTO picture, we take fixed points or relatively fixed points which stay fixed during respiration, and those are the arch of aorta points. So we take point on the coronary cusp areas, right, left or non-coronary, and carotid artery, which are like, these are like relatively fixed during phases of respiration, and so we take these points. Yeah. So on the CARTO, with the CARTO catheter, which has a sensor which emits an electric current which is mapped by plates positioned behind the patient, which locates this CARTO catheter in three-dimensional aspect. We do first what is called FAM. The gray areas that you're seeing, it's a fast anatomical mapping.
Show that. Raghu, show the
So
point.
first we do the FAM with the ablation catheter to get the arch and LVOT aspect. This we merge with the CT picture which is taken within the last 24 hours by taking these fixed points in the coronary cusp areas. Here we have taken the non-coronary cusp, left coronary cusp, and the carotid artery areas, and with these fixed points the CARTO system can merge, after a surface reconstruction, can merge the CT picture to the FAM picture that we have taken with the CARTO catheter. After getting this, then we take a map of the left ventricle, and then with the ICE catheter, together with both these, we do reach the septum at the most curved point on. Also, you must have seen the angio pictures. So correlating all this, we position the catheter at the most distal aspect of the maximum hypertrophy, and then as we give lesions 60 seconds apart, we come, and so we create continuous linear lesions in three separate planes. This is arbitrary, how much to ablate and how long to create the lesion, but safety is the important thing. We stay away from the His bundle area to prevent the CHP. You can see on RAO view, show the RAO view, see the yellow dot that you see.
Yellow dot.
You can just zoom up on that, Raghu. The yellow dot is what the His bundle AV node area is. We stay far away from it to prevent complete heart block. So you can see the red dots are quite far away, about 2 centimeters away from the yellow dot, which is the AV node His bundle area. And so these are in three planes, the linear lesions, to ablate as much as of myocardium as possible. It's done on irrigation control, so that a more depth of muscle penetration is achieved during radiofrequency ablation.
LAO points towards the
As she was explaining,
this
basically,
is RAO view, and we'll show you in LAO view. Just show the LAO view of the CARTO. LAO view of
It's pointing towards the septum.
yes.
Transparency, please.
So the ablation lesions, when we make the CARTO more transparent, you can see are on the septal aspect. This is the septum of the LV, and the free wall is on the right side.
1 minute, Sharda, can we just ask, because the technology which you're showing is relatively new to people here. Basically what she was trying to describe is CT angio pictures first taken, and they'll be correlated, mapped with the CARTO pictures. The idea is to see where is the hypertrophied segment most common, where it is there, and we need to give ablations there. So this interpretation and combination of CT angio with CARTO will help us to map the area where it is maximum, and the catheter will be taken at that particular point to deliver ablations. That will avoid usage, as she was telling, damage to his bundle, production of AV block and other advantages, as well as the right area can be done. And after this also, we still monitor through while doing ICE catheter. So all the three modalities are taken into consideration while selection and doing what is best for the patient in the site of ablation.
So you can see the eyes picture very clearly now that it's moving. See, that's the hypertrophied septum, and the artifact of the catheter can be clearly seen abutting on the septal aspect a bit more distally. So we take help of eyes as well as CARTO to navigate the catheter safely.
Yeah, did you give already?
Yeah, we gave already lesions in two different planes. The third plane we are doing right now. So
The red dots are the lesions.
Yeah. Narasimhan, whatever you have done, if you briefly explain, probably we need to go to NIMS because they're waiting with the case there. So we can take another 2-3 minutes to explain what you have done already.
See, the main thing is we first map the left ventricle, identify where the left bundle, his bundle are all tagged. So those are all danger areas we want to stay away from. And then we torque the catheter to come down to the septum, which is constantly being imaged on the intracardiac.
Can you show those fluoro pictures also, please?
LAO. See that. Now, can you show LAO on CARTO?
Yeah.
LAO on CARTO. No, zoom it on the main view. In this view, show LAO. On the other screen, show LAO. Now, if you see the aorta, the catheter is pointing, you see the lie of the catheter, it's pointing towards the septum. I have come through the aorta, bent it, and it's facing the septum. How do I know I am in contact? You look at the unipolar electrogram, an ST elevation on the unipolar electrogram, and an impedance drop tells me I am in contact. You can see further on the intracardiac echo, the bent catheter constantly against the hypertrophied septum. So the lesions are being created now, everything is going on fine.
Okay. So as we have seen in the previous patients, there was significant fall in the gradients and follow-up. Even in this patient, immediately it may not be there, but follow-up will decrease further. Can we break off from you, Narasimhan, now?
Yes,
or do you want?
please, go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for excellent demonstration of CARTO and CT angio pictures together along with recorded live in a box case which was done before. We thank Dr. Sharda, Narasimhan, Haigirev and all others there. Thank you very much.